Over 3,000 years ago, Babylon stood as a beacon of civilization, its streets alive with merchants, scholars, and worshippers. But behind this vibrant life existed a hidden system, one that linked religion and sexuality in ways rarely spoken of. At the heart of Babylonian belief was a deep reverence for fertility, life cycles, and cosmic balance. The gods themselves embodied these forces. Ishtar, goddess of love, war, and fertility, demanded devotion not just in prayer, but through sacred acts that mirrored her power. Tammuz, her consort, symbolized the cycle of life and death, growing crops, and the eternal return of vitality. Temples were built not merely to honor these deities, but to serve as conduits, where humans could enact rituals that aligned with divine forces. Sexuality became a sacred tool, a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Initiates were trained in secret, learning rites that reinforced both spiritual connection and social hierarchy. These practices were considered essential to the prosperity of Babylon, blending belief with power, desire with devotion. Understanding the origins of this system allows us to see how ancient religion was not merely symbolic but a living, intimate practice, shaping society from the ground up and embedding sacred sexuality at the heart of civilization. In the temples of Babylon, sacred sexuality was not taboo but ritual. Priests and priestesses, known as hierodules, guided devotees through ceremonies designed to honor the gods and invoke divine blessing. These rites varied from symbolic acts of union to elaborate fertility ceremonies involving entire communities. Participation was highly controlled. Only the initiated could understand the hidden language of gestures, chants, and sacred spaces. Temples themselves were architectural marvels, with private chambers, altars, and sanctuaries arranged to facilitate these rituals. Art and carvings depicted intimate acts as sacred, emphasizing that desire and devotion were intertwined. Sexual rites were believed to energize the cosmos, ensuring prosperity, fertility, and protection for the city. In some ceremonies, high-ranking citizens were granted access, reinforcing their connection to the divine and solidifying social hierarchies. Historians have noted that even myths of the gods reflected these practices, embedding the knowledge in stories that survived long after the original rituals faded. By participating, devotees were not indulging in hedonism, but enacting a symbolic and spiritual union, a deliberate act meant to maintain balance between human life and the divine order, ensuring the survival and success of both individuals and the society they served. Sacred sexuality was more than religious practice. It was a tool of control. The priesthood held immense power in Babylon, regulating access to both the divine and these intimate rituals. Political leaders relied on the temple hierarchy to legitimize their rule, often participating in ceremonies that confirmed their divine mandate. The rituals reinforced loyalty, obedience, and social stratification, subtly reminding citizens that power, desire, and devotion were inseparable. These acts were coded language, a form of influence, invisible to the uninitiated yet binding for those within the sacred circle. By intertwining sexual rites with civic authority, the priesthood maintained control over both personal and public life. Laws, myths, and economic policies were intertwined with religious practice, ensuring that sacred sexuality was not just personal but societal. For women in hierodules, participation offered both status and security, yet it also placed them under strict oversight, demonstrating that power and sexuality were deeply entangled. Understanding these dynamics reveals that Babylonian society was not only sophisticated in architecture and governance, but also in psychological and spiritual influence, using sacred rites to shape behavior and force hierarchy and maintain a civilization that thrived under both divine and human order. Though Babylon eventually fell, its rituals did not vanish entirely. The knowledge of sacred sexuality survived through oral traditions, secret societies, and adaptation into later religions and cults. Priests carried the teachings beyond the city, sometimes cloaking them in allegory, symbolism, and myth to preserve secrecy. Temples across Mesopotamia and beyond incorporated fragments of these rites, blending them with local customs. Elements of Babylonian practice can be traced in fertility festivals, initiation rites, and mystical teachings that span centuries, always hidden behind layers of piety and ritual. The secrecy was essential. Exposure risked scandal, punishment, or the collapse of the delicate social and religious order. These hidden transmissions allowed sacred sexuality to influence cultures long after the temples crumbled, shaping human understanding of the divine, desire, and power. In some cases, modern scholars misinterpreted these practices, dismissing them as mere superstition or erotic indulgence, missing the profound social and spiritual function they served. By tracing these transmissions, we uncover a lineage of knowledge, a secret thread connecting ancient Babylon to distant cultures, reminding us that the most intimate acts were often the most powerful, preserved by those who understood their potential to shape both soul and society. Much of what we know about Babylonian sacred sexuality comes from careful study of artifacts, ruins, and cuneiform tablets. Temples reveal private chambers and altars suggesting ritualized activity, while carvings depict figures and poses that highlight fertility and divine connection. Tablets record hymns, chants, and temple practices that hint at ceremonial sexual rites, though their meaning is often encoded in symbolism. Excavations in Babylon have uncovered figurines, inscriptions, and reliefs depicting the gods in intimate acts, underscoring the sacred nature of sexuality in religious life. Some artifacts suggest that rituals were inclusive of the community, while others indicate highly exclusive, secret ceremonies for priests and elites. Archaeological interpretation is challenging, but when combined with mythological texts and historical accounts, a clearer picture emerges. Sacred sex was not peripheral, it was central to the religious and social structure. These findings validate historical references and illuminate practices that were intentionally hidden from common knowledge, providing evidence that sexuality and spirituality were inseparably woven into daily life, governance, and devotion, leaving behind a silent, yet undeniable, record of one of humanity's most powerful hidden systems. Today, Babylon's sacred sexual system is often sensationalized or dismissed as myth. Popular culture focuses on eroticized interpretations, while historical understanding frequently overlooks its spiritual and societal dimensions. Yet, the legacy persists, influencing modern concepts of ritual, mysticism, and the intersection of desire and devotion. By studying these practices carefully, we recognize that sacred sexuality was neither exploitative nor arbitrary. It was a deliberate, codified system that reinforced the spiritual connection, social order, and political power. Misconceptions arise because modern morality and prudence clash with the ancient worldview, obscuring the functional and symbolic importance these rites held. Reflecting on Babylon's hidden system forces us to reconsider how sexuality, power, and religion interact in human societies. Even now, the echoes of Babylonian practices linger in rituals, myths, and cultural memory, a testament to their endurance and influence. As we uncover these layers, we confront the truth that the most intimate aspects of life have always been powerful tools of connection, devotion, and control. Babylon may have fallen, but the lessons of its sacred sexuality remain, inviting us to understand history not as a collection of sanitized stories, but as a complex web of desire, belief, and hidden power. As the sun sets over the ruins of Babylon, the shadows of ancient temples stretch across the sand, silent witnesses to secrets that have endured for millennia. What began as sacred devotion and ritualized desire shaped a civilization in ways few could comprehend, intertwining power, sexuality, and faith into a system that guided society, influenced rulers, and connected humans to the divine. Though temples have crumbled and centuries have passed, the echoes of Babylon's hidden practices remain woven into myths, legends, and the very fabric of human culture. Reflecting on this lost world reminds us that history is rarely simple, that what we see on the surface often hides deeper truths, and that intimacy and spirituality have long been intertwined in ways that challenge modern understanding. The sacred sex system of Babylon was more than scandal. It was a mirror of human ambition, devotion, and the desire to touch the divine. As we leave the ruins behind, we carry a question forward. How many other hidden systems, rituals, and truths remain buried in the sands of history, waiting for us to uncover them? The story of Babylon teaches us that to truly understand the past, we must look beyond what is told and seek the secrets that lie beneath.